Good afternoon, I'm Giovanni Dennis with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're joining us online at onespotmedia.com. Opposition leader Mark Golding is raising concerns about the powers of the Prime Minister under the Disaster Risk Management Act. Parliament last evening passed changes to the Act after a robust debate. Mr. Golding said the changes will give the Prime Minister powers to create new offences.
My problem is that the executive, through the Prime Minister, and this would apply whoever's in power, is empowered to determine what the scope of the order is, what is included in the order, what is made a criminal offence, what conduct is going to be restricted or prohibited. And this Parliament has no say in that. It's gazetted, yes, for and those who read the Gazette, I don't think there are many of us in here who do, would be able to find it eventually and so on.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the bill was crafted in 2015 when Mr. Golding was the Justice Minister.
The bill is crafted in this way, and I'm certain the leader of the opposition would know because this bill was crafted in 2015 and he would have had great experience in putting this bill together, probably a hand in drafting it, probably the person who drafted it as well. And the reason for that is that it is to give great flexibility of response in a disaster. Because in a disaster, it is quite possible that the institutions of government, including Parliament, may not be able to work.
The bill will now head to the Senate for consideration this Friday. It has 40 proposed fines of up to $500,000 for breaches of COVID-19 orders. Persons could be fined $5,000 for not wearing a mask in public and $10,000 for breaking curfew. Small business operators and hoteliers are already facing fallout from the lockdown announcement. Despite this, the business community in St. James is standing with the government on its decision to impose 3 weekends of lockdown. Codian Barrett reports.
Many enterprises were depending on the Easter holidays to do good business, but those hopes were shattered when Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced 3 weekends of a nationwide lockdown. Hotels have since been met with cancellations and some small businesses forced to stay closed. However, President of the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Janet Silvera, says the business community is in agreement with what the government is trying to do.
We know that a number of our members are going to lose business, are going to lose money as a result. But sometimes you have to make the sacrifices. Government could have done a full lockdown, but they didn't. The 3 weekends, we know people are going to lose. However, we know also that it is for the good at the end of the tunnel.
She recognized that with some unruly persons continuing to disregard the COVID-19 protocols, drastic measures were needed.
I don't believe that we have enough police to enforce the law right now. And there are parties that are being held in the bushes. There are parties that are being staged at midnight. There are people who are leaving villas and going to these events. We know about a lot of things that's happening. And it is because of selfishness and this disrespect to the law.
She also pointed to the possible long-term negative effects it might have on tourism if action is not taken.
There's going to come a time, if we're not careful, that people are going to be afraid to come to Jamaica. Owing to the fact that our numbers are too much, owing to the fact that we don't have hospital beds. The government does not want it to get to that stage. And that is why I believe they made the decision to lock down for 3 weekends. I believe that it will reduce the numbers.
Ms. Silvera is also of the view that fines for breaching the COVID-19 regulations should be made as high as possible to act as a deterrent. She added that it is the responsibility of everyone to adhere to the safety protocols to limit the spread. Until then, the good will continue to suffer for the bad. Codian Barrett, TVJ News.
We go now to news that the local racing fraternity has been plunged into mourning following the death of one of the country's greatest ever trainers. 18-time champion Wayne DaCosta. Renardo Brown has this report.
The legendary conditioner, who had been hospitalized in the intensive care unit at the University Hospital of the West Indies for the past few weeks and was also on a ventilator, died on Tuesday night. DaCosta, who had been involved in racing for over 40 years, saddled over 2,000 career winners and was the island's all-time leading trainer. He saddled 7 Jamaica Derby winners, including the most recent King Arthur, who landed the 2020 edition. Not many words were spoken on Wednesday morning when TVJ Sports visited his stables as several stakeholders gathered. Groom Bertie Johnson, who has worked with DaCosta for over 20 years, was devastated at the news.
Well, I feel cut up, but can't do no better. Feel cut up very, very much. Cut up.
Fellow trainer Gary Sabrati also reacted to the news of DaCosta's passing.
Very, very, very sad day. My condolences to the family and everybody. Wayne is we're going to miss him. We're going to miss him. Very good guy. Everybody's down. No matter what happened, it's just everybody's really down about what happened. I mean, it's a hard hit for racing.
Christopher Brown, former chairman of Caymanas Track Limited, released a statement on Wednesday morning calling DaCosta a giant in the horse racing industry, not only locally but regionally. The statement also read, quote, "His prowess as a trainer is renowned, and he certainly has secured his place not only in the annals of the horse racing industry, but truly as a nationalist who made his mark. He was not only a participant within the industry, he was a leader within the sport." End quote. Renardo Brown for TVJ Sports.
Some members of the entertainment industry on Tuesday staged a protest in the streets of Mandeville, Manchester, against the island-wide curfew hours. The group claims the measure is not working. Sandy Williams reports.
No curfew, no vaccine. No curfew, no vaccine. No curfew, no vaccine.
A small group of people from the entertainment industry protesting against the government-imposed island-wide curfews along Main Street in Mandeville, Manchester on Tuesday. The group contends that the measures implemented by the government since the first case of the coronavirus in Jamaica a year ago have not worked.
For the last year and a half, the curfew was working. Why we still need a curfew? That's ridiculous. That's paradoxical. That don't make no sense. Change the format, accept a different result. You know what I mean?
They claim the curfews are only making things worse financially, not only for persons in the entertainment industry, but for the average citizens.
Yep, thousands if not millions right now. For the past year, not making no dividends, not making no money. But they don't have a voice and they don't have an individual to say, here we go and this is how we are feel. So I'm basically a voice for the voiceless, The first mistake you make, you should never open. Remember me telling you, Andrew Owens, don't open the border. Don't open the border. Make we eat or we grow, and grow or we eat. And make we take care of ourselves in Jamaica. Jamaica will be a better place. You know, listen.
As for the COVID-19 vaccine, the group says they are not interested.
Out of 12,000 JCF or JDF, why is only 150 of them vaccinated? Makes no sense. It's no vaccine for me. Who I'm going to take it, go take it. So we're just here vamping for the folks. And that is basically indecisive right now. When you're on a borderline and you don't know XYZ. This vaccine thing, me personally, I'm not friend-minded. So vaccine goes for me. Because me, no one going to friend me. All right. And me no want a vaccine. Me no wear a mask.
The group, which is comprised of DJs, singers, and promoters, have been protesting in several parishes, and they intend to continue across the island. They also believe the government should focus on the country's crime problem.
Right now, crime turn up people. Crime turn up in Jamaica. Last week gone was one of the bloodiest weekends you have in Jamaica. 17 people died. I know we don't hear the Prime Minister come and address the situation. War going in Jamaica.
On Sunday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced 3 weekends of national lockdown starting Saturday, March 27. This following the spike in COVID-19 cases over the past few weeks. Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
Now on editorial note, just to give the correct figures about how many police officers have been vaccinated, the police say over 3,000 members of the force have been vaccinated so far. Jamaica recorded 439 confirmed cases of COVID-19 on Tuesday. This pushes the number of confirmed cases to 36,670. Kingston and St. Andrew continue to record most of the new cases with 117, followed by Westmoreland with 45. Meanwhile, the COVID-19 death toll now stands at 545. 3 more people died from the virus. The latest persons succumb to the illness are 2 males over the ages of 70 from Kingston and St. Andrew and a 62-year-old male from St. Thomas. Hospitalizations have now climbed to 451. 42 are critically ill and 62 are moderately ill. There are currently 19,253 active cases. And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when we return. Welcome back, and we're continuing the news. The granddaughter who was charged with the murder of her grandmother, 84-year-old Advara Palmer, is booked to appear in court next week. Police say 27-year-old Ramalia Rebecca Polkins was charged in the presence of her attorney on Tuesday. The incident happened in Smithfield near Cross Keys, Manchester. Her body was reportedly found in a chicken coop at the back of her house. Superintendent Gary Francis is head of the Manchester Police.
A family member, a granddaughter of the deceased, was charged with her murder and is booked to appear in court early next week. A caution statement was collected from her yesterday in the presence of her attorney. Given the crime scene itself, which communicated something to us, there was no signs of break-in. It would appear that the offense was committed by somebody inside.
In the meantime, Superintendent Francis is urging residents to seek help to better resolve domestic disputes.
Offense of this nature is really something that is alarming, and as we seek to get to the bottom of this, we just appeal to the citizens. If they have conflicts in family, let us try to seek help as best as we can to avoid incidents of these nature.
Parliament's Public Accounts Committee PAC members were forced to make a decision on how to hold future sittings as COVID-19 continues to threaten their meetings. Fears of gathering as well as persons being in quarantine have caused weeks of delays so far. Herman Green reports.
The PAC is mandated to scrutinize the finances of ministries and government bodies by calling representatives to answer related questions. However, with COVID-related issues and challenges impacting their gathering each week, Committee Chairman Julian Robinson sought a consensus on future meetings.
There were 2 options put on the table. One was a hybrid option where we could physically come here and the persons appearing before the committee could do so remotely. I'm now being told by the committee clerk that the IT team at Parliament is now in quarantine. Is that correct? And that option is actually not available.
The second option is to have fully virtual meetings. While other committees have been meeting online, most PAC members were not very receptive to the idea.
I just feel like sometimes when we discuss certain things, it's more, we understand each other more in this way. So I think moving forward, we should be coming closer to having a more stable environment where most of us either have been vaccinated or have already had COVID.
With the current program of vaccination, I think will be somewhat inoculate the country in 24 months. And on top of that, I think the nature of the inquiries that we are having, I don't see how it would be as effective if we did it on online platforms.
The Ministry of Labour and Social Security, which should still be fielding committee questions, has missed several weeks because of COVID fears and concerns among their representatives and staff members. But with the vast majority of committee members voicing a preference for face-to-face sittings, the decision was made to continue in that way.
So we're not bringing any motion to to the full house to ask for a virtual sit-in, and members will just have to be on standby that if there are scenarios where officials from the MDAs are not able to come because of the current pandemic, then we're going to have to reschedule or postpone.
Herman Green, TVJ News.
Cabinet has approved $2.5 million in contracts for various projects across the island within the last 2 weeks. Information Minister Favour Williams gave the breakdown at this morning's post-cabinet press briefing.
Cabinet gave approval for the award of a contract to Campion Industrial Equipment and Supplies Limited in the amount of $96,516,210 for the Essex Valley Water Supply and Upgrade Project, Phase 4B, New Building Pipeline Distribution System in St. Elizabeth.
In addition to the construction of the distribution system, 8 kilometers of pipeline will be laid. A contract has also been approved for the acquisition of gear for firefighters and heavy-duty equipment for the National Irrigation Program.
$809,559.75 for the procurement of protective clothing for 355 firefighters of the Jamaica Fire Brigade. Cabinet gave approval for the award of a contract for the supply and delivery of 1 amphibious excavator for the National Irrigation Commission Limited in the amount of $76,384,187.90, inclusive of GCT, and this contract was awarded to IMCA Jamaica Limited.
A contract worth $415 was also approved for the acquisition of 4,000 HIV test kits. And here's a preview of what's coming up in this evening's Health Report.
The next edition of the Health Report will look at ways in which you can boost your immune system to help fight COVID-19.
Eat a healthful, well-balanced diet, get some exercise, be out, get a little bit of sunshine, early morning, late evening, manage stress, sleep, rest well, and hydrate. How could I forget that? Hydration, adequate hydration. Any type of infection that we're talking about, an intake of adequate fluid, especially water, is always very important.
That's the Health Report this evening in Primetime News. And now for today's healthy living tip. Don't smoke. Eat a diet high in fruits and vegetables. Exercise regularly. And get adequate sleep.
To news overseas, more states in the U.S. are expanding the list of people who can get vaccinated against COVID-19. We have more from the CNN.
State by state by state, more and more people are able to get vaccinated against COVID-19. In some states, expanded eligibility for people 16 years and older started earlier this month. Alaska was first, then Mississippi and West Virginia. And starting today, Utah. Texas, Indiana, and Georgia have just announced plans to do the same. And at least 21 more states will be on board by the start of May. Those states right on track with President Joe Biden's goal.
All adult Americans will be eligible to get a vaccine no later than May 1.
Though a number of states aren't opening up eligibility until May or later. So why such a wide range of dates? Medical experts say it's because there are state-by-state differences in supply and demand. Something the president addressed Tuesday, saying there are plans to more rapidly acquire enough vaccines to vaccinate every person in the U.S. quicker than they'd hoped. The people leading the charge against COVID-19 see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Hope is here. We see increasing supply. Vaccines are the way that we're going to get to the other side of this.
But overcoming vaccine hesitancy is crucial, at least according to this epidemiologist.
Good data and information and good stories can help people change their minds and make the right decisions.
To news in sports at sports time, Sri Lanka reached 376 for 5 after lunch on day 4 of the first test against the West Indies at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium in Antigua. They lead by 278. The visitors, who resumed at 255 for 4, added 103 runs in the first session for only the loss of Dhananjaya De Silva for 50. Having been 46 overnight. Pathum Nisanka, who was not out on 21 at stumps on day 3, has taken his score to 79, while Narushana Dikwela is there on 44. And that's the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.